Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
So it's this English learning podcast called Daily Money Briefing.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. You get the
Yeah.
financial news and kind of a language lesson all in one.
Oh, I like that. Sort of killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
We're digging into some pretty interesting financial news coming out of South Korea and also the U.S.
That's right. We've got reports on South Korea's national debt, which is, well, climbing.
Yeah.
And a big change to their deposit protection system, too.
Yeah, and then over in the U.S., some surprising figures on wholesale prices. So our mission really is to unpack these, see what the key takeaways are.
And figure out what they might mean, for economic stability, but also for your own financial situation, potentially.
Okay, so let's start with South Korea. The national debt situation. What's the headline there?
Well, the headline is a pretty significant jump. We're talking a 34.7 trillion won increase just in the first quarter of 2025.
Wow. Okay.
And that led to a fiscal deficit of about 61.3 trillion won. That's the gap between government spending and income.
And that figure, 61.3 trillion, that's notable.
It is. It's their second largest first quarter deficit on record.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of speed, that kind of scale definitely gets your attention.
Right. And the government's explanation is that this is deliberate, aggressive spending to boost the economy.
That's the official reason given, yes. Propping up the economy through fiscal spending.
But they've apparently used up a huge chunk of their planned deficit for the entire year already.
Yeah, that's the striking part. Almost 83%, 82.9% to be precise, of the annual deficit target was hit by the end of March, just 3 months in.
So that does raise questions. Is this sustainable? How fragile is this economic recovery if it needs this much fuel this quickly?
It makes you think about fiscal soundness long term. It's a balancing act, right? Stimulate now, but manage the debt later. Such rapid spending could potentially point to some underlying weaknesses or maybe just very aggressive recovery tactics.
Okay, let's stick with South Korea, but shift slightly. There's also news about deposit protection.
Yes, and this is quite significant for individuals. They're doubling the deposit protection limit.
Doubling it. From what to what?
From 50 million won up to 100 million won. And this is the first time they've increased it in 24 years.
24 years. Wow, that's a long time. So who does this apply to? Just big banks?
No, it's quite broad. It covers regular banks, but also the mutual finance organizations. So think credit unions, agricultural cooperatives, places like that.
Okay, good coverage then. And the regulators are moving on this.
Seems so. The Financial Services Commission is planning to revise, I think, 6 different laws to make this happen.
Yeah.
After they get public feedback. It's set to take effect September 1st.
So the direct benefit for savers is clear. More protection if their financial institution runs into trouble. Up to 100 million won now.
Exactly. It's a bigger safety net.
Could there be a link, though, between this rising national debt and suddenly increasing deposit protection, like a confidence measure?
That's a really insightful point. It's certainly plausible. If there are background jitters about government finances, boosting deposit insurance is one way to reassure the public, shore up confidence in the banking system itself.
Interesting. Okay, let's pivot now. Across the Pacific to the United States, wholesale prices did something unexpected.
Yeah, quite unexpected. The Producer Price Index, the PPI, which basically tracks prices from the producer's side, it actually fell in April.
Fell? But weren't people expecting an increase?
That's right. The forecast was for about a 0.2% increase, but instead it dropped 0.5%. That's a noticeable swing.
And what about the core PPI, the one that strips out food and energy?
Their core PPI dropped 0.4%. That's the biggest monthly fall it's had since 2015, I believe.
Okay, so this isn't just a blip in one volatile sector.
Doesn't look like it. And even if you take out trade services as well, the index still dipped 0.1%. Apparently the first time that's happened in 5 years.
So prices received by producers are softening. But what about year over year? Is it still up overall?
It is still up year over year by 2.4%.
Right.
But even that was lower than analysts were forecasting.
So what's the interpretation here? What could be causing this drop when inflation has been the big story?
Well, one theory gaining traction is that U.S. manufacturers might be dealing with costs, perhaps from tariffs on imports, but they're choosing to absorb those costs for now.
So instead of passing higher costs immediately onto buyers and eventually consumers, they're taking the hit on their margins.
Potentially, yes. Maybe because of competition, or perhaps they're worried about demand weakening if they raise prices too much right now. It suggests some complex pressures at the manufacturing level.
Okay, so let's quickly recap. South Korea, Debt rising fast, raising some fiscal questions, but also a move to significantly boost security for depositors.
Right. And in the U.S., an unexpected cooling off in wholesale prices, hinting that maybe producers are feeling squeezed or cautious.
It's quite a contrast, isn't it? Aggressive government spending stimulus on one side, potentially easing price pressure from producers on the other, different dynamics in different major economies.
Exactly. Balancing growth stimulus with debt concerns in Korea versus potential margin pressure and soft inflation signals at the producer level in the U.S.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. When you see these kinds of contrasting signals from different corners of the global economy, what are the subtle clues, maybe the less obvious indicators, that you will start paying closer attention to in your own financial world?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us today.